Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Mark. Solo Games, I'm back. Week long of travel, but I'm back. So finally, apparently I'm coming back to some sort of like storm. Everything's going crazy in this world right now. So let's put some sanity in this world, okay? First of all, guys, the world's not dying. Sky's not crashing down. You're doing okay. I'm doing okay. Everybody's happy, right? So let's talk about the reserve list. Yeah, good topic, right? If you missed the news, apparently this is a big deal that happened like, I don't know, 2 days, 3 days ago. Well, apparently while I was on the, in the air, traveling, all that stuff, there was some rumors that the reserve list has been abolished because the reprint policy page is taken down. So first of all, this whole thing, just so you understand, Mark Rosewater already came out on the website, I think twice now, to talk about it and just said, hey, that's a mistake. So that's going to be, taken care of. It's not a big deal. Apparently it's some website mistake while they were doing the migration. So yeah, you'll see it up here, linked with some of his postings, but yeah, it's not a thing. So I'm gonna be honest. I know everyone's gonna be like, hey, why would you believe him? He's a liar. The spirit of reserve list is broken, like Rudy's talking about all the time. First thing, right? Look, they're not gonna send him out to make this post and allow him to do this unless it's true, okay? Because it's too recent. It's like you don't lie. If you lie, right? The smart way to lie is you lie about something that's like 10 years ago. Right? You can't lie about something now. Like if you literally, that's easy to prove. Like if tomorrow by Monday, Friday, they don't put the list back up, Mark Rosewater and his tweets out there, everyone's got a copy. I got a copy. I got screenshots. This video will have a record of it. It's dumb. So they would never do that. Number two, look, like if they're going to take down the reserve list, whatever, and sneakily do this stuff, they're not going to make a public statement. You're not going to be able to see Mark Rosewater talk about it at all. It's not going to happen. So don't worry about that stuff, okay? But to be fair to everything that's happening, the timing is so terrible. Are you kidding me? Right now, in the moment of all this controversy, all this problems, all this Hasbro reports going down the drain, all this like nobody's opening whatever, and apparently, we can't even sell Mox Pearl, but Mox Ruby is like the card to buy now, right? Something like that. In all this controversy, they dropped this crap. Yeah, the timing's really bad. Yeah, dude, if you're migrating a website, make sure it works. This is really dumb. Like, we're in 2022, guys. Like, it's not that hard to migrate a website. Make sure the pages load, stand it up on the other side, do a double check of all your pages before you just like, hey, turn it back on. Let's do a little disaster recovery, do a little pre-planning, that kind of stuff, okay? But then I thought, hold on. We got to take the devious angle, right? What if all of this was a test? What if all of this was a test to see, hey, are they going to notice? Are they going to notice that we took it down? And just kind of gauge the public's reaction. Is Mark going to make a video on this? Is Rudy going to make a video on this? Really gauge the reaction of the community. That one, that theory I like a lot more, right? That's a more interesting perspective. Again, super hyper, theoretical, but hey, look, I wouldn't put it past Wizards at this point. They are definitely doing a lot of market tests. So who's to say this is not one of them? All right. But anyways, moving on from that, I did want to come back to the video I did, I want to say like 2 weeks ago now, where I kind of watched MTG Lion's perspective on reserve list, the reprint policy, all that stuff. I know, first of all, like, we kind of went through that. I wanted to take in all of your, feedback and responses in the messages. So first of all, thank you so much. Tons of responses, very powerful responses. I mean, people were writing me essays, paragraphs, negative, positive, everything. You can see from people who are out there, presenting solutions to people who are just saying, burn it all down. Yeah, I hear you. The anger is loud and clear in the community right now. We are not blind, okay? I know Wizards might be blind, but we are not blind. We're not deaf, we're not blind. We see what's happening and we feel it too, because that's our money, that's our game, that's the things that we care about. So 100% with you. So let's talk about the responses a little bit, right? So overwhelmingly, most of the comments were about abolishing the reserve list. This didn't really surprise me too much. and I didn't see a strong link between the people who were wanting to abolish to how much reserve list they own. Again, self-reporting. This wasn't surprising to me because it's all self-reported. So I can't prove you have reserve list. I can't prove you have the amount that you claim to have. I'm just going to believe it on face value. There was enough responses where I just don't think a lot of people really are trying out there hey, I own 50,000 and you have nothing. I really just don't think people are that, devious, or that many people are that devious. But, maybe it's just my kind-heartedness where I trust the community, right? Now, again, just remember the self-reporting. The other part of it too is I know there's a silent majority because only 5% of the viewers respond and comment. So there's probably a lot of people who watch the video who don't say anything. Maybe you're the people who actually have the cards and you don't want it to abolish reserve list, but you'd rather just not make a comment. So we do want to recognize that the community, at least that is not as verbal, big unknown of what they think, right? Okay. The other part to also consider is, in general, smart money keeps their mouth shut. Okay, the people who usually have money and serious money and this type of stuff, they don't really talk about it because they don't really want to share that information. It could affect one way or another of whatever they're investing in. So don't want to take the risk and also expose yourself, right? Okay, totally understand. So that makes sense. Okay, now on to what surprised me about those responses. So many people out there, right, that claim they have reserve lists and want it to be abolished. I think in some ways, this was a little bit shocking to me personally, because I don't personally want the cards to tank in value. But maybe there's a difference, right? So for example, if you own one card, let's say you own Ancestral Recall, very useful card, probably play in Commander, just play in different, settings. Maybe if you own a copy, you don't care if the reserve list is abolished. And that's going to be different from somebody who owns, for example, 20 copies. And the whole idea here is wealth preservation. I dump a bunch of money into Ancestral Recall, dodge the inflation train, dodge whatever other train to, for example, sometime in the future, I want to be able to sell that and get some more money back. And it's kind of like preserving my wealth, right? So I hear that, which is just because you own the reserve list, your perspective on these things are just going to be different. But that did surprise me a little bit that people who say they have the reserve list want it to be abolished, right? But the funny thing is about that is even among the reprint people, the people who want reserve lists to be reprinted, they want it, there was quite a big group that want the reprints to be at a high price. This was a little bit shocking to me because I think for me personally, either you're on the camp of don't reprint it, keep the price high, etc., or you're on the camp of reprint it and keep the price low. I find it surprising that there are a good chunk of people who are saying reprint the cards but keep the price high. So I guess what I'm trying to think is you're kind of thinking increase the supply of the market, obviously, but also increase peg the price at a high price. So sure, the supply is going up, but because the price out of the door, like MSRP, whatever you want to call it, is at a certain price where it does not devalue what's happened before. I find that perspective actually kind of interesting. I never really thought about that as a solution to reprinting the reserve list, but that is actually really interesting. And in some ways, I guess it is what Wizard is doing. They're kind of pushing the reserve list this way in the 30th anniversary. Feels this way, right? If you're printing fake cards that are not tournament legal, but the price of it is similar to the reserve list, that seems, at least the way that they market it or marked up the price of the packs. If you do all the math and whatever, it comes out to be revised level, which is, it's very interesting that that's the way it is, right? Other fun facts. People really care. There were multiple essays written to me about this topic. Yes, I think, let's see. So I did promise I was going to read all the comments. I, of course, cannot read all the comments into perpetuity, but at least from the point where I took all these notes down, I did read every single comment. For the ones that were a little bit more interesting, I did try to also reply back and kind of hear back from you. But in general, I thought it was really thoughtful of a lot of you, actually, multiple people in the community who wrote me long essays about their perspective, their thought, where they're coming from. I see the passion. I see what this game has done for people, and that's amazing. To me, that is an awesome thing. And it really sucks. It hurts me even more that there's people who are so passionate about this game and they feel like the company that's making it is destroying it for them. So that's a big deal, man. That's a big that's a big F. That's a big fail on Wizard to piss people like this off, because these are the fans they actually want, right? But it was, yeah, so it's, again, very clear, people who were even negative, right? There are people who wrote essays that are a little bit more neutral, potentially even a little bit positive, hopeful of the future. But even of the people who are negative, like, the anger shows through that they care. Because at some point, if you're so negative, you're so hateful of what's happening right now, you don't care. You don't want to make a comment. I know personally that MTG Lion cares about the game, because otherwise he wouldn't be making videos on it. There's, of course, you can say, yeah, monetization, whatever. I agree. There is that element, but I truly believe that he wouldn't be doing that unless he actually cares what the future of the game is. You know, he wouldn't have like boxes of cards in the background if he really didn't care. That's the truth. Like, just like me right here. Look at all these commander decks and whatever I got in the background going here. And this is just a small portion of what I have here. I just, you know, not organizing properly, right? Okay, so on to maybe the meat of this video, maybe why everyone's here, right? My thoughts on the reserve list. First thing I want to say is, this is my current thought, and this is after reading all of your comments. So definitely your comments have changed some part of my perception or perspective as well. It has colored it, has flavored it differently. So I want to make that very clear. And I want to say that in the future, you know, maybe within the next half a year to a year, my perspective and thoughts might change again. Because again, there's a lot of things that's happening right now, and we are in a really weird time right now. So who knows what's going to happen in 10, 20, 30 years? Who knows what's going to happen even within a year? So normally I would talk in 10-year horizons, but right now, like, honestly, maybe 2023, 2024, we'll have a very clear perspective on both the direction of Wizards, but also the things that we believe in, whether we want to still do them again, right? And it kind of sucks. So yeah, I released a guide on like being a greedy investor. I felt like was pretty well done to show people what I do, but now I feel like it's guiding people in the wrong direction, right? Potentially. Okay, so my thoughts, right? Personally, I love Magic the Gathering. I think it's a great game. I think the reserve list gives this game a mystique that no other game has. I think it's really interesting that we have a game where the creators said, hey, these are some cards that we personally said, hey, we just don't want to reprint them again. And hold that list up and continuously, I don't know, like, you know, you don't want to make a list and never talk about it. You want the list to be powerful enough where people are going to talk about it organically. It really drives a lot of interest into the game. Whenever people talk about Black Lotus, you know, they think Magic. I guess, you know, the iconic card of, you know, Yu-Gi-Oh! Is going to be Blue Eyes White Dragon or Dark Magician. Pokemon's going to be Pikachu, Charizard, right? There are cards like this, and their value and their worth, their longevity is really, really paramount to the survival of the game, in my opinion. Imagine if Pikachu was not so special anymore. I think people would kind of lose interest in the game, really. And same thing goes for Black Lotus. Now, does that mean that the company should never reprint the card? I think there is a uniqueness and mystique to Wizards. And one of the problems, like, look, if you started on this pedestal for a long, long time, made a bunch of promises to people for 30 years, and then suddenly you kind of back away from it, it's a crushing moment. It's a trust losing thing. And right now, at least right now, Hasbro, WotC needs trust of the players, the investors, the collectors, everybody, more than any of the other card games, right? Look, there was no guarantee or promise in Pokemon to not reprint Pikachu. That's why they're numerous. That's why the old border is always there. You know, all this new framing, whatever. But to be honest, still people like the shadowless, you know, red cheek Pikachu. And as far as I know, they haven't reprinted shadowless cards. Maybe that's what Pokemon wants to do. But in some ways, if I argue the opposite way is, guess what? Pokemon has reserve lists too. They're not going to print a shadowless red cheek Pikachu. Right? Maybe not, but I don't see it. And they haven't done it in 25 years. Pokemon's a little bit, you know, younger than Magic. 25 years of the game, you know, being available. They could have done it. They actually have zero policy that refrains them from doing it. So why not? I think part of it is because they also see the power of that mystique. Having the original copy, there's like something about it. Having all these influencers chase that card and drive a bunch of traffic to the game. That's really, really cool. In general, wealth destruction is negative for the game. Look, so many times I talk to players, they're just disappointed. Like they look at their collection, they say, I spent $500, $1,000 on this modern deck, but now it's no longer meta. So guess what? Half my cards are just going to be worth nothing or near nothing. This type of drastic wealth destruction is really bad for the game. It drives a lot of disappointments to the player. Now, you could argue, if we reprint cards to oblivion, right? In general, all the cards that people need to play, well, then we wouldn't have this problem, because you have players who have decks, then you know what? They were worth $10 when you bought them. Now they're worth $5. Who cares? I kind of agree with that in general. So, but again, it's one of those things where if you're already up here, we can make the argument for everything that's coming new. And look, whether you like it or not, cards of this like post Eldraine era are very numerous. They're very available. Look, I don't know why we're reprinting Black Lotuses and shit when we could just put a bunch of Meat Hook Massacres and Fable Passage and Great Henge and whatever into new booster packs. Those are the cards people need. Those are the cards people want. Ragavans everywhere now, right? Put them in. Put those cards that people need into new products. It just baffles me that you don't have to destroy something old. Look, nobody's really looking to play with Mox Pearl, Mox Diamond, Ancestral Recall. Like, it's cool. It's a great card to have, but it's not super necessary, right? Whereas, like, a Great Henge is a great card too. And guess what? You should just have it, like, so you can build decks and Pioneer, whatever, right? Commander, those kind of things. I just think, like, if the card goes up like that in price, I don't know why we're not reprinting Great Henge. And so then on the counter side, if you think wealth destruction is great, then here, everybody who owns a Meat Hook Massacre, Great Henge, buckle up, right? Let's reprint those cards. Put them in the list. I haven't seen Meat Hook in the list. I haven't seen Great Henge in the list, but I've seen a ton of cards from even the last set. They're putting Commander Legends Baldur's Gate into the list now, right? So why? Think about these kind of things. And here's the reality. Because of what I just said now with the whole list, or what I'm saying that happened with the 30th anniversary, I'm very, very, very confident that even if they do reprint the reserve list, like MTG Lion and other people are suggesting they probably are going to do, they're probably not going to drop the price. They know what these cards are worth. It's going to be another specialty item, the great ancient masters, whatever you want to call it, right? And trickle little bits of reserve list in there once in a while. And that's it. So guess what? Imagine you have like Black Lotus, similar rarity to the full borderless, Jeweled Lotus type of thing. And, sure, there will be a reprinted Black Lotus, original frame, Chris Rush, art, everything, right? In the collector's only booster at a drop rate of close to like the Neon Ink Hidetsugu. Is that a meaningful reprint? And does it even matter, honestly? Because, again, they have to calculate these things out. Either, if they want to keep like Lotus and whatever cards, the price they want, either they have to print them so scarce that it's like you got to open up like, let's say, $20,000 worth of product before you hit a Lotus, then you're basically paying for it anyways. Or you make the product expensive. That's why the 30th anniversary is $1,000, not $10. That's why. I mean, if you understand this is how it's going to work, because they know they don't want to crash the market. They don't want to actually destroy the wealth. So here's the thing. If you own reserve list, don't do anything. Don't sell it. Maybe you shouldn't buy anymore. At least you understand what the market is doing. If you have confidence in the thing long term, go ahead and pick up some cards. Right now, it's a really good time, right? Go slow, but go. Yeah, so it's pretty clear to me, at least right now, from what they've done so far, that they do not want to drop the price. So even if a reprint is in the line, whatever, they're not really gonna like do anything. But even then, why not just print hyper like better than reserve list cards? In fact, this is one of the most like talk about topic, and it's very common in the comment section to my previous video. Yeah, we had discussions of like Black Hair Lotus, Onyx Lotus, right? The Abyss Lotus, whatever, right? You could just print a better Black Lotus, print a better Ancestral Recall, and then we'd be done. Why even have a reserve list? The design space of what's above power level to reserve list is infinite, right? If you have a Abyss Lotus, 0 mono artifact, right? sacrifice it at 3 mana. Just all you have to do is a little bit different. 3 mana of any combination. That's all you got to do. Now you have better Black Lotus. Who's going to want the Black Lotus now? At least for play, right? Maybe you want 2. You want both Lotuses. Okay, well then next year we print a new Lotus, right? Blacker Lotus, Blackest Lotus, right? 0 tap sack or 0 sack. Sacrifice whatever. Add 4 mana of 1 color, right? You could just. There's so many ways you can make this better. There's so many ways you can change everything, and then it doesn't matter what you have on the reserve list. You can keep the list as is. Nobody's going to care, right? And truly, then it becomes collectible versus collectible and playable, which, that I think that's where I think a lot of the players have problems, is that reserve list has cards that are playable, that they want, but the collectors are kind of like gumming up the system where those cards aren't flowing out. And of course, because they're not flowing out, the price has to go up. So, yeah. Yeah, so if you think about it, like, basically, it's all about EV. And one of the things that you have to think about is, like, why do they keep printing hyper rare cards, right? Whether it be Shattered Glass Megatron, whether it be Neon Hidetsugu serialized cards. They're doing this because, again, Wizards have financial people in their office that understand EV at the level that you have never even thought about of this game, right? They are calculating every single thing. Those drop rates are based on what price they want those cards to hold long term. Otherwise, they're not going to do it that way. The only reason they did it this way is because they want those cards to hold those prices. And that's why it's engineered and designed that way. Okay, I don't know why that happened. Okay. Yeah, so one of the things, it's like, if you think about it, we are already kind of power creeping into the reserve list. There's now tri-lands. Who's to say that they won't be tri-lands that sometime in the future don't come untapped, right? Who's to say there are tri-lands in the future that for some reason is actually better than the ones that were the duels before? Like, you're getting to the point where you have a choice to make, and maybe one of the choices is actually better than the other, or maybe a tri-land that's searchable, and the only condition for it not to be tapped is if you have 2 or more players, like buddy lands, but buddy duels instead of buddy duels, buddy try. It's these are all options that Wizards actually has in their arsenal without even pissing anybody off, technically. Yeah, but regardless, I'm still firm that once WotC understands what is happening, and I'm telling you right now, they don't understand it because the stupid echo chamber is just too loud, and they're sitting in their ivory towers or whatever, and they're just having chats with each other, and it's like, oh, look, everything's great, right? Yeah, they love us. Look, they're buying our products, right? We send out the 30th anniversary, they bought it, right? The countdown kit. So yeah, they love us. So, whatever, all this financial engineering, all the engineering behind the scene of like how they're going to push products, make you, the customers, accustomed to what's happening. So, frog in the boiling water type of thing, right? Trickle little things like this, make you understand how, I don't know, like scarcity works in their system. And then eventually you'll get to a point where you're like, hey, you know what? That's just how it is. If I want to get 30th anniversary, I know it's $1,000, but I still have to fight for it. They can engineer all these things in a very manipulative way where you have no recourse, and you as a consumer, honestly, you're just going to get trapped either way. So yeah, but at the same time, if we hold the line, if things change, if we continue to have like all this, I don't know, solidarity in the community to say, hey, you know what, we're not going to play this game. We're going to give you terrible numbers until you change what you're doing. And I'm sure a ton of players have already quit because look, Magic is getting more expensive again. It's already a very expensive game, and it's gotten more expensive again. Yeah, I mean, it's just cards. I mean, I have board games in the back right there. I have game pieces and everything. Cost me $50, right? With game pieces, figures, miniatures, printing a whole board. Magic is just a freaking box of cards, and it's like more money than those games. It's really something that's interesting, right? That like we have to consider. Maybe it's too expensive and it's going to drive a bunch of people out, and we don't even need to wait until the angry people leave. The normal Joe Schmoes, they just say, you know what, like, honey, this game is too expensive. Maybe we'll try a different game, right? Telling their kids whatever, and they just don't buy Magic anymore, or the kids lose interest, that kind of stuff. Okay. And lastly, I do want to say, like, I think one of the things that I actually thought reserve list was for, minus all the monetary stuff, was reserve list was always meant for me to set a bar of the power level that we will never cross. Now, given where this Magic game is going, given where like things are kind of looking, maybe we're getting pretty close to that bar. And the problem is Wizards is making a pretty big decision to say, do we cross it? Do we jump over it? What do we do? And that's a very interesting perspective, because of course there's power creep. If you look at cards from 94, 95, look at 97, look at the cards in 2000s, look at the cards in 2010s to now, there's just certain cards that have gotten better. What happened to vanilla creatures, right? Part of it is because design perspective, vanilla creatures are not fun to play with. But the other part of it too is, well, there's so many cards out there that are like 2/2s for 2. How do I make my 2/2 for 2 better? Or 2/2 for, a 2/3 for 2, a 3/2 for 2. Those kind of things Wizards are already kind of exploring. So at this point, like, maybe what we have understood as a fair mana value to, creature stats is already changing too. I've no doubt it's already changed. I'm just saying, like, that power creep is happening. But I always thought, on the flip side though, reserve list did help to establish for the players, for the community, for even designers at Wizard, never print a dual land. Never print a Black Lotus. There will never be an Ancestral Recall. Like, these cards, right, Moxes are too powerful. These cards held at some point, which is this is the bar you should never cross. And I don't know. I mean, I think there's some value to having a bar like this, because I think there's value to tell people, hey, this is where we're going to draw the line and never cross it. But at the same time, I mean, I just see like Wizard being habitual line steppers. Who knows? Maybe in a year, 2 years, this line doesn't exist and nobody cares. Maybe in a year or two, they realize, we can never actually still cross this line. So we're still going to keep, edging towards it, maybe like tapping it once in a while, but never really doing anything to cross it. Who knows? All I know is that large companies don't die from things like this. They're not going to burn out. The only thing that could be potentially interesting is, well, if the stock does dip pretty low, what if there's a forced buyout? What if the people who were driving this whole takeover, activist takeover kind of thing, a proxy bid in the stocks, now has a new opportunity to come in and sweep up enough shares to have majority ownership of the company and put some of their people on the board at this point when it's cheaper, much cheaper than before, right? So there is that perspective as well. But what we can all agree on is that the direction that Wizards taking right now is probably not the right one. Look, the fact that you got the anger of the players and the collectors and everybody, that's crazy. Now, to be fair, none of the things I'm saying on this channel, of course, like are financial advice. I'm just kind of entertainment purpose only, right? But the way I always thought about it too was this. For me to be a greedy investor, I bought Hasbro stock to hedge against them being evil. Because if they're evil, they'll earn more money, so the stock should go up. And then I also bought cards to hedge against them being good, or hedge for, whatever. Basically, the idea is that, hey, look, if they're going to treat the players well, the cards will go up in value. And because there are more players, they're happier, they're whatever. And if they don't treat the players well, overprint the shit, whatever, but that means they're going to earn more money. I have never seen, or I never would have thought that they would angry both sides. And so the stocks are dipping and also the cards. It's an interesting moment where we live in. And I'm going to stick it out to the end and see where we go with this. At this point, I have a lot of products. I'll probably be able to play Magic for a long, long time. So I don't really care, I think. The game is still fun for me. The history, the allure of the reserve list is kind of honestly why I even joined. I didn't want to play a game where I felt like every moment I play, open up deck, whatever, I was just going to lose all of my money. I'm a little bit stingy with my money in general. I hope everyone else is as well. But at the same time, that's just being good financially, about yourself, your family, that kind of stuff. But at the same time, I just don't feel like I want to be part of a game where all of it is just, you know, you open boxes, you lose all your money. It just feels kind of icky for me. And